Welcome back to the Money and Wealth Show. I'm Sterling Fox. Our special guest this week back here at Simon Fraser University, marketing professor Dr. Lindsay Meredith. And Lindsay, we were talking about small and medium-sized businesses. As we began today's program, we'll get to consumer survival tips in a little bit, but I just want to follow up on a couple of small business items. One, the technology of this new millennium has certainly made the playing field more spacious for a lot more small and medium-sized businesses, certainly right here in British Columbia, hasn't it?
Absolutely. When I teach the whole concept of what the internet has done, what technology has done, I talk about something called a strike zone. In the past, if you had a business, say in Kamloops or in Prince George, they basically could deal with the marketplace right in their own particular area.
Right.
Because of internet, because of online communications, because of easy connections, you don't have to have a salesman in Vancouver anymore. What happens is you can actively trade. That strike zone is increased a whole bunch because you can reach a lot farther than the small business your father operated.
Let's connect the technology idea with the marketing strategies that we were talking about also a few minutes ago. You were talking about not abandoning your advertising needs. You must let your potential customers know you've got what they need. But maybe you don't need to buy the expensive television advertising. Sorry, Czech people, it's not a personal thing here at all, but it's the survival of the small businesses that, for example, if you have a website, or if you don't have a website, maybe it's darn time you did.
Very, very much. We know one thing. We know consumers, especially Canadians, actively research using websites now before they make product purchases. Well, the bottom line is, if you're not there, I guess they don't happen to see you, and you don't even get onto the consideration list.
Sure.
Well, if they don't know you're on the radar, my friend, you're not doing any business.
Well, what about the reaction, though? Okay, so I went out and I spent $1,000 to have some young Sharpie develop a website for me. It's been up and running now for almost a month, and I haven't had one bit of consumer feedback. Do I just write that off as a loss, or how long should I have to wait before I see some feedback here?
You don't get instantaneous responses. First, people have to find out that you're there.
Right.
The interest has got to be there. Yeah, do you have to make the website attractive? Sure you do, but you'd have to make your advertising attractive if you ran something in a local paper. Same principle. There's got to be a draw there that makes it worthwhile for somebody to come and check you out. Yeah, you have to have the right keywords so you do show up in search engines.
Right.
And I don't mean on page 495. You want to try and get up somewhere near the top. Now look, fair enough, that costs money. But again, you want to try and look at this idea that advertising shouldn't be considered an expense. Because if you think of it that way, you're going to say simply, you know what, I have to make a cutback this month, well, I'm going to cut that expense. Advertising is an investment. It builds up over time, just like any other asset you invest in. Same principle. Look at websites that you develop in that light.
Look at your competitors' websites.
Look at your competitor's website. Right. Take a look at websites you see out there that look attractive. Things that catch your interest. That's the first test. And then make sure, key issue, don't, and we always talk about this, don't always go by your own opinion. Go ask your friends what they think of the websites. Go ask your friends what they think of your website and tell them to be brutally honest with you.
Right.
Because you're trying to attract other people's interest. Don't judge the world by the way you see it.
And also, if you are doing commercials on radio or television, you as a marketing professor, I know have come across this with your students. Somebody puts up their hand and says, you know, Professor, I don't ever go to that establishment or shop at that particular chain because I hate their ads. They put me off so much, I refuse to even go in to examine the merchandise. How frequently does that come up for real?
You can get antagonizing, basically widespread mass media advertising that annoys the hell out of consumers, and yes, that does drive them away. Remember, when you're working off websites, those guys are going to see your website. It's their choice to make the point and click.
Right.
So they're traveling over to an area that you've created, and if you make it interesting for them, entertaining for them, they're going to come and see you. Mass advertising, yeah, you're always going to antagonize some of those particular buyers out there. And yes, will some of those people be possibly driven away from you and just plain not come through your door? Sure, that can happen.
But that's a risk anyone takes by putting their name or their company name out there into the marketplace. Somebody is going to take offense in some way to it. You just can't ever please everyone.
Absolutely, that's one of the real issues. And certainly, we have something we talk about as clutter. Clutter means the average consumer is probably anybody doing a commute, for example, probably exposed to over 5,000 messages per day going to and from work, plus what's on TV, what they see as billboards, what comes by in the paper and on the radio. What happens? Consumers lock all that stuff out. That's how they protect themselves.
Right.
Well, trying to get past clutter is always a big problem, even for small businesses. Websites, certainly one way of trying to get noticed, trying to attract people to you. Basically, when you are a small local business, sometimes it's just a case of making sure that you are there, that people know that you're available and open for business. And if you're local, you work that. Other key issue a lot of people always overlook is the issue of good PR. Can you be an active supporter of your community?
Right.
Hey, look, way back, you and I all remember baseball teams, for God's sake, when we were kids. What was plastered across the back of every kid's jersey? The local auto body shop.
That's right.
Well, guess what? They were advertising back even at that point, and it was a PR function.
Sure.
Well, small firms and big firms today are still discovering that. That gets you away from the clutter kind of a problem. Then you get seen as a community player. So can a small business person just sit back and say, I'm not really part of the community, except when I want to be? No, you can't afford that. That's a luxury.
And the added bonus to being a participant in your community with your advertising dollars is that's tax deductible, isn't it?
You got it, my friend. It certainly is.
So there's the bonus. Your profile is raised in the community. You're seen to be a positive factor in your community.
That's right.
You get to write off whatever money you spend in that area, and your product or your service, certainly your company name, stays active in the minds of a lot of people in the community.
Absolutely. People lock on to things as basic as environmental movements is a good example of that. So you'll see guys who would have normally difficulty attracting customers basically saying, you know what, I'm taking a leading role on some environmental issues here, and nailing that down to their product or their service. And when you put the two of them together, suddenly you get what we call a critical mass.
Well, sure, that's being seen as being a green business nowadays.
Got it.
And that's a huge plus, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, there's one thing we caution people on, and this applies to small and big, is if you're going to paint yourself green, make darn sure you can substantiate that. It's called greenwashing. The media are tuned to it. I swear good reporters are hardwired for it. If you paint yourself green and in fact you're not green, you're just telling the world you are, boy, these guys lock on to you like a pack of wolves. That blows up in your face.
All right. Our special guest this week is Dr. Lindsay Meredith from the marketing area in the School of Business here at Simon Fraser University. We'll be back with lots more after this.
Hi, I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of Gold Ray Resources Corp. Our major project is in Shandong Province, China. It's a gold project with a 43101 resource. We're currently negotiating a $16.5 million US loan to take it into production at 1,500 tons per day. For more information, go to goldray.com or phone me directly at 604-531-9639.